All right, welcome to Frontline. Happy Monday, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We're beginning some breaking news tonight. Congresswoman Nancy Mace naming names, publishing the congressional members who used the taxpayer-funded congressional slush fund to pay off sexual harassment claims. Mace listing 9 members, over 1,000 pages, saying all records prior to 2004, though, were conveniently destroyed. We're going to have more on this later in the show. Plus, former Sinaloa cartel leader Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo, has reportedly requested extradition from the United States back to Mexico, where the notorious drug leader claims he was treated humanely while he was incarcerated there. Oh, also he conveniently escaped from 2 maximum security prisons, 2001 and 2015. And as we gear up to celebrate America's 250th birthday on 4th of July, the only holiday worth celebrating anyway, on this date in 1776, the colony of Rhode Island became the first one to renounce allegiance to England's King George. So the state the size of basically a backyard in Texas got the revolutionary ball rolling on this date in 1776. But first, how many times does the government say they're going to do something while saying they're looking out for you, and it totally backfires and you get screwed over? Lots of times. Let's do this. All right, if there was ever any proof, ever, as to why never trust Democrats, the Spirit Airlines saga is like the perfect highlight for this, okay? This is why when I hear about some liberal poll that's like, oh, Trump is underwater on the economy, I'm like, really? Because the other option is literally socialism and people who don't know anything about economics. If you didn't hear, Spirit Airlines had their last flights this weekend, unfortunately. Thousands stranded, 17,000 jobs lost, according to the carrier, and around a dozen airports in some sort of limbo that had Spirit Airlines as their sole provider to their entire airport. This is the perfect example of how liberal policies always end up. Because if you recall, the Biden DOJ blocked them from merging with JetBlue that would have saved that airline last year.
Our complaint alleges that JetBlue's proposed $3.8 billion acquisition of Spirit violates Section 7 of the Clayton Act. We allege that if allowed to proceed, this merger will limit choices and drive up ticket prices for passengers across the country.
And that was in 2023. And now they've gone out of business. Not one Democrat ever in this whole process thought like, hey, $38 flights to Fort Lauderdale might not be a marketable, viable business model. And if we don't let them merge, they're going to go out of business? Like, nobody thought that? Elizabeth Warren, she was a professor at an Ivy League school, yet was out there. Well, she was the one who sent the letter to the DOT urging them not to approve the merger with JetBlue, saying, I've warned for months that JetBlue Spirit Airlines merger would have led to fewer flights and higher prices, just as ATR and DOT were right to stand up for consumers and fight against runway airline consolidation. This is a Biden win for our flyers. Was it? But it isn't the first time the Democrats have opposed a merger. Frontier also tried to acquire them. Guess who opposed it? Elizabeth Warren, Mondaire Jones, along with Senators Ben Ray Lujan and Bernie Sanders and Rashida Tlaib and Katie Porter when she was in Congress, not harassing people while she was running for governor. You had Jan Schakowsky, AOC too. But Pete Buttigieg didn't want the merger because he said, according to him, it would eliminate competition.
Our department, the Department of Transportation, has generally not gotten involved in these merger cases, but that's changing today. It is so important to make sure that passengers have choices, that they have access to low fares, that they have access to competition.
Yeah, well, now there's no competition, Pete. Everything Democrats touch just goes to hell in a handbasket. Trump tried to help, and that deal was rejected. I would just say that renowned economists agree that you have to make more money than your expenses to stay in business. And all Democrats. We have to have a low-cost flight provider. Yes, that would be great, but this model doesn't work, clearly. November 18, 2024, Spirit filed for its first bankruptcy. August 29th, 2025, second bankruptcy. And now, third time's the charm, they've just completely ceased to exist. Look, Anytime Democrats are involved with any business transaction, unions, Democrats, idealists, socialists, coastal elites, Ivy League grads, none of them understand basic economics. You can do this with anything. Democrats, we have to raise the minimum wage. Companies lay off half their entire entry-level workforce and then double the price of a cup of coffee. And then Democrats are like, we need price controls. It doesn't work like that. It's just basic math. UPS, perfect example. Unions pushed for massive pay wages. Well, they got them. Some drivers made over $200,000 a year. This is back in 2023. And then what happened? Within a year, they had to raise prices on shipping on all their boxes so fewer people mailed things. And what happened? Then they laid off 12,000 people to cover those costs. And now, today, they're thinking about laying off another 30,000 people this year. Thanks, unions, who donate almost exclusively to Democrats. This is what libs never understand. Nobody ever says, hey, would you rather have 100 people employed at salary X or 70 people employed at X plus 30%? Or 50 people employed at X plus 50% pay. The only mechanism to pay people in a company is to have a consumer pay for your product that covers the cost. If you watch the show regularly, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Keep in mind, in 2022, the Spirit flight attendant, air attendant union got 10 to 27% wage increases with 40% over 2 years, which resulted in their first bankruptcy. Pilots in 2022 also got a 27 to 43% pay increase for the same timeline. And when the airline didn't raise prices to cover that, they went bankrupt a second time. Every time there was all these structural changes where they had to dial back and they brought wages back down a little bit, but not all the way back down. There was serious internal pressure to raise ticket prices, but couldn't do that. Proof that you don't get half credit for showing your work. You actually have to have the money and be good at the final equation on math. There was enormous pressure to keep Spirit Airlines, from politicians to internals to unions, trying to keep those prices low, and Spirit didn't raise them. I got a serious question. Do you think that other airlines sit around and are like, yes, let's make them as high as possible? No. Look, they'll raise them as much as they can get away with, but they're not trying to just double them just because. They're doing that so they can make a profit, a little bit of profit. They try to keep them as low as they can while maintaining profit margins so they can be competitive, Pete Buttigieg. Now, because Democrats have told us that we have to have these $30 flights to Florida. 17,000 people don't have their jobs because Democrats tried to mandate Spirit keeping things low. See, if the government had just let them merge twice, yes, there would have been some increases and a couple layoffs, and the flight from New York to Florida would probably have been, $50 instead of $40, but they would have stayed in business, and most of those people would still have their jobs. But what's most rich about stuff like today, the same Democrats are out there with their hair on fire. Oh, this is a tragedy. I hate that people lost their jobs, but no concern that they caused this problem in the first place, like Elizabeth Warren. Because she tweeted out, spiking fuel prices from Trump's war is the nail in the coffin for twice bankrupt Spirit Airlines. JetBlue merger failed because a judge appointed by Ronald Reagan said the deal was illegal. Republicans are desperate to shift the blame from higher costs hitting families. The same person, Elizabeth Warren, who celebrated the merger getting blocked just a few years ago, now blames it on the Trump administration and some Republican-appointed judge. It's unbelievable. But this is the best part. These same people could not have cared less when they destroy any other project. Pick one out of the sky. Dakota Pipeline killed 30 to 40,000 jobs. A supply line that, ironically, Elizabeth Warren, would have kept fuel prices lower during this Iran conflict that could have saved Spirit Airlines, according to your logic. The government should just have no say in things like this. I get monopolies and antitrust laws and stuff like that, but this was not even close to that. There's 12 main carriers in America right now, and another 50 to 70 smaller or regional carriers. This is the nature of business. Prices will only be as low as a company can make marginal profits. The ceiling is what people can and will pay. But Elizabeth Warren shouldn't be anywhere near dictating any of that or what any airline can charge or anybody else. One thing's for sure. The same number of people will probably be flying in America. And they will now be forced to buy seats on other airlines that were already full, which will lead to an increase in demand. Every time that happens, there'll be a decrease of supply, which makes all tickets cost more for everyone. Great job, Democrats. Chief economist for the Heritage Foundation, E.J. Antoni, and economist and also pilot, somebody who knows a thing or two about the airline industry, John Jordan. All right, John, as a pilot yourself, I mean, you'd fly to, Fort Lauderdale for $38, right?
Well, I fly myself. I've been in and out of there. Not only are the Democrats bad at economics, Carl, Merrick Garland's bad at lawyering. He cites the 1974 Clayton Act as it was anti-competitive, the merger. But when, in fact, by allowing this airline to go under, it reduced competitions. The big four airlines, Delta, United, and American, and Southwest, are 74% of the market share. And now Spirit's going away. Meanwhile, Elizabeth Warren is saying, yeah, it's energy prices that drove it under. Wait a second. These are the same Democrats that were driving energy prices up, in fact, celebrating it during the Ukraine war and it's a promoting of the Green New Deal. Celebrating, saying, hey, $6 a gallon gas is great as long as Ukraine is getting supply. Yeah. So it's just ridiculous how they do this. It was anti-competitive. Fares are going to go up. People are out of work. And people tried to raise $88 million today to try to save Spirit Airlines on the internet. It's like occupied that big a place in Americans' heart.
But EJ, it's every single time. I mean, I will say Ronald Reagan is probably the clearest example of this. Roll this real quick. We have Ronald Reagan? No, we'll come back to that. But he said, okay, play it real quick.
Government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
How many times does government try to help people, EJ, and fail?
Carl, I think every time. I mean, you can probably count on one hand the number of times since Ronald Reagan was president that the government has actually tried to insert itself into the market and so-called help people and actually succeeded in that end instead of making people's lives worse. Yeah, Obamacare, great example of that. We were promised you can keep your doctor, you can keep your plan. Those two things were blatant lies, obviously. Healthcare costs have exploded, not gone down since that law was passed. And you can say, well, healthcare was already going up beforehand. Yes, it was. And the rate at which it was going up accelerated after that law was passed. So again, did not make things better, made things worse. And now, to your point on Spirit Airlines, the concentration among the big four carriers just went up. It didn't go down. It got higher. And look, even if this merger had gone through, the new company between JetBlue and Spirit would have been less than 10% of the market. United, the Democrats' favorite, which they were using to ferry around illegal aliens under the table during the Biden regime, that airline still would have been 70% bigger than the combined Spirit JetBlue company. So spare me the monopoly hogwash here.
I know. And think about this one too, John. Kroger and Albertsons. Again, a federal judge blocked the merger and anti-competition fears. There was enormous pressure from politicians on the left. Then they just cut 1,000 jobs from their workforce when the whole thing, couldn't be approved.
Yeah, well, economic illiteracy gives way to politics. They want to interfere in the markets to promote their certain agendas for their certain supporters of their projects without understanding the wisdom of the market. And this is what's important, Carl, is that the lefts neither understand nor respect the wisdom of markets. They don't understand that the markets represent the collective wisdom and decisions of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of actors. They don't trust it because it's all about control, not trust in the American people.
But EJ, the other thing too is look, the subway used to cost 5 cents. I'd love to take the subway for 5 cents, but I can't do that because it's not economically viable. Ironically, Democrats then took it over and then they tripled the price within 2 years.
Right. And Carl, this was the whole reason why Spirit was seeking out mergers in the first place. It's because it got to the point where it just wasn't large enough anymore. It didn't have the economies of scale that the big carriers did. In other words, it faced the same high fixed costs, and it didn't have enough flights through which it could disperse all of those costs. And it needed to merge in order to be viable. And the Democrats said, sorry, you're not allowed to do that for completely illegitimate reasons. And my goodness, what incredible gaslighting that you highlighted out of Elizabeth Warren earlier, when she was one of the biggest cheerleaders to prevent the merger, now tries to blame the other side and say it's all their fault.
Yeah, 100%. But whatever, that's Elizabeth Warren. EJ, John, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, Seattle Socialist Mayor Katie Wilson dodging not even basically just any questions from a local reporter. As like, if you can't answer questions, how are you running a city? We got that later in the show. But first, President Trump launching Project Freedom in an effort to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, allowing commercial merchant vessels to freely move through the strait, escorted by our big guns. We got the latest on that mission next.
Think you need a new roof? Think again and save thousands. We'll help you put off the high cost of a roof replacement for at least 5 years.
Or 10.
Or sometimes even 15.
We're America's most trusted roofer because we always try to save your roof rather than replace it.
We'll restore your roof for a fraction of the cost of a new one. But don't wait. If your roof loses too much protective coating, it's too late. Call now or scan the code and we'll give you an assessment of your roof for free.
They tell you to optimize, to hack. But what if you were never broken? Armor Colostrum, the first food of life, reawakens your innate brilliance. 400 nutrients, 4 seconds, 1 daily revival.
Mom jeans. She passed them down to you. But who passed them to her? Good question. You can thank generations of amazing women for those genes. Discover their lives and what led to you with an Ancestry Family History membership. See your roots and where those stories came from with an Ancestry DNA kit. Put them together, and there you are. Save now during our Mother's Day sale.
Dale, you really need to get that colon cancer screening. Yeah,
it's been forever.
Dale, we can do it with just a blood test. Shield.
Shield is for people 45 plus at average risk, not high risk for colon cancer. Ask your doctor about FDA-approved Shield.
This is a bottlenose dolphin, and this is the breakthrough nutrient doctors discovered that helped some dolphins age healthier than others. It's called C15, and the more they had in their diet, the healthier they aged. Now, over 100 peer-reviewed studies later, Fatty 15 is bringing this discovery out of the ocean into everyday life to give your cells the same age-related benefits as all those happy, healthy dolphins. Fatty 15, healthy aging for all.
As the U.S. remains eager to resolve tensions in Iran, we all do, President Trump launched Project Freedom this weekend, writing on Truth Social, quote, "For the good of Iran, the Middle East, and the United States, we have told these countries that we will guide their ships safely out of the restricted waterways so they can freely and ably get on their business, or get on with their business." This project, obviously, Project Freedom, will begin Monday morning, Middle Eastern time. That was today. So the U.S. was able to open a secure passage through the Strait of Hormuz for innocent merchant vessels to pass through. And then, of course, in true Trump fashion, he had to follow up with this graphic showing exactly what Iran has been left with at the end of their everything. It's all been destroyed. All right. One of the guys who smoked Osama bin Laden, Rob O'Neill, and a senior fellow at the Center for National Interest, Christian Whiton. Rob, Trump said he was going to do it. Now it's open. What now?
Well, what now is some of the vessels, some of the insurance companies just need to realize when the U.S. Navy helps them get through it, they're going to get through it. You're going to get little boats to try to interfere, but we sunk a few of them today. I think like 7 boats. The blockade's still working. About 49 ships have been redirected back to Iranian ports. All Iran has right now is the waiting game. Well, and a lot of the Western media. They've got nothing. I mean, this is like Baghdad Bob giving the reports that there's they have some sort of skin in the game. They're annihilated. The only people you got left are the people that want to die and go to heaven. That's pretty much it right now. There's no infrastructure whatsoever. So once everybody realizes that we can get them through, we just got to wait it out if we can, and prices will come down once it succeeds.
By the way, if you guys don't know Baghdad Bob reference, that was the guy when American forces were absolutely decimating Iraq. He was on TV like, "We are beating the Americans back," and like the ceiling was getting bombed in the middle of the broadcast. It was great. You should go watch it. All right, Christian, there's some reports, though, this morning that Iran had issued a threat from their rotary phone that with no military to back it up, but that's saying that the Strait of Hormuz, after Trump launched this Project Freedom, but they said that they had injured one of our ships, and that was not true at all.
Right, that was a lie. What was not a lie, I assume they didn't take credit for, but what they did is they did fire a cruise missile at the UAE, some minor damage to the oil facility that's used to actually ship oil across the pipeline and not use the Strait of Hormuz. That's bad. They really are playing with fire, but it is very limited. It's been noted. One thing I thought that was very interesting that Admiral Cooper said was that just the sheer number, several hundred helicopters. So to attack Iran, we don't need to send B-2 bombers from Nebraska or B-52s from North Dakota. We can use tremendous numbers of assets, whether it's from ships or from bases. We don't talk seemingly too much about that, but I think we're operating out of all of the Gulfies and out of Israel. It is a waiting game in the sense that it's costing, as Treasury Secretary Bessent said, around $500 million per day in what they can no longer export. If that's not enough pain, and if they do keep striking our allies, then the president is willing to go back and do more. I think he's going to give them a little more time.
Yeah, but Rob, we have seen the Iranian currency keeps halving. It's like worth half as much every single day. At some point, they're like, they can't pay their armies, they can't pay their municipal people. What is the point that this country just shuts down and we don't have an enemy anymore?
Well, I mean, an issue we have is the intel on the ground, and there are people out there smarter than me that have better sources, but it is getting cut off, and this is an economic chokehold that we've got on them, and we need a coup inside. We need people to rise up. It's just a question of whether or not they will. We kind of rolled the dice and said they would, and we kind of need them to do that in the time that the media doesn't have everyone freaking out. It will work eventually. I mean, this is where it gets difficult now. You're dealing with hardliners, the threat of arming people. I mean, this is the problem. This is all of the stuff you got to think of before you say no boots on the ground, or we're not going to invade. This, no foreign war. So we're in. We're all in. And again, like I've said before, it doesn't matter why we're here. We're here. So we better win it.
But obviously, National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett said that the blockade is actually working really well to destroy their economy. Christian, he says their currency, like I said, currency hitting an all-time low. Listen to this.
The fact is that what the president is seeing is that the blockade is working. It's putting an enormous amount of pressure on Iran. And they're an economy that's really on the precipice of extreme calamity. They are having a hyperinflation. They're starting to have hunger. The bottom line is that the pressure on the great American people, because of these people who are really intent on American and Israeli destruction with their nuclear weapons, are still in power.
So from there, we're kind of left with the idea of, again, how long can they hold out?
Yeah, very hard to say. It's hard to time democratic revolutions. Even people who are confident that communism in Europe, for example, would eventually fall. You could have been there at the end of the Reagan administration in 1988 and still not predicted what was going to happen in 1989 when all of the communist governments of Central Europe basically flipped over to freedom. It's hard to estimate, but one thing with the project the president outlined starting today with the passage of a U.S. flagged cargo ship, and I think you'll see some oil tankers go through. Once that happens, one of two things happens. Either the ships go through and traffic does start to resume, and we'll see gas prices globally come down, or Iran will prevent that, and then we go back to military action. So I think, again, the president's in a pretty strong place, and a strong place as he goes to see Xi Jinping in China next week, too.
Yeah, actually, that's going to be a heated meeting that I'm really looking forward to hearing how that goes. Rob, Christian, appreciate it very much.
Thanks, guys.
All right, coming up, beef prices soaring, which is the worst news I have ever heard. And now the feds, though, are stepping in, which is a good thing. Trump's DOJ launching an antitrust probe into major meat packers. There's only a few of them, but what are really behind the scenes going on here? Our legal panel is going to sound off next.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
I'm seeing more and more people in their 40s and even in their 30s starting to prioritize their cholesterol health. They're doing what they can with diet and exercise, but want something more. Human Cholesterol Health Daily is that something more. A multi-action formula with plant-based ingredients backed by 3 clinical studies that demonstrate real, measurable support for cholesterol and vascular health. Founded in partnership with the University of Texas, this is modern-day cholesterol support I wish more people knew about. Only human.
Home inspectors, contractors, roofers. All kinds of pros recommend Leaf Filter. Why? Topped by stainless steel micro mesh, Leaf Filter is engineered for protection. In testing, Leaf Filter handles double the water volume of common hood-style guards without overflow. Our product design is driven by relentless innovation, ensuring optimal performance even in the toughest storms. And we back it all with a lifetime clog-free guarantee.
Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
My earwax buildup was frustrating. Then I tried new Lipo Earwax Cleanser. The revolutionary formula dissolves earwax 5 times faster than the leading brand and helps prevent future buildup. Feel the difference with new Lipo Earwax Cleanser.
Sensitive mouth and gums? Ever heard of Closest mouthwash? Your dentist and hygienist have. They know Closest is ultra gentle for sensitive mouths with non-burning mouthwashes that freshen breath, improve gum health, and strengthen teeth. Closest, the gentle mouthwash for sensitive mouths.
Forget the warm-up. DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone. Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
How old are you?
11.
The first day back from maternity leave is so weird. We get it. Find a caregiver who does too. When it's not you, it's care.com.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
Pump up the volume. Go ahead. Crank the volume. We got you. USPS has increased daily package processing capacity by 46% in the past 5 years. And with USPS Ground Advantage, your packages stay in our secure network, dock to door, nationwide. For full visibility, near real-time tracking, affordable pricing, for peace of mind. USPS Ground Advantage.
Later this week, we will be announcing an historic settlement that will directly affect the prices of proteins like chicken, pork, and turkey. This business model allows competitors to exchange competitively sensitive information on every aspect of the protein industry and has raised the prices on chicken, raised the prices on pork, and raised the prices on turkey.
Look, I know I just told you that the government should get out of the airline industry, but the beef industry is literally run by cartel. They are talking about monopolies that tripled the price of beef in recent history. The Justice Department confirming a sweeping antitrust probe into the nation's largest meat packers after reviewing millions of documents and interviewing industry insiders. And we've been reporting on this before for years, actually. Four companies control more than 85% of U.S. beef processing, with about half, with literally 2 of them, Brazil owned, which makes this a matter of national security, especially for my steak intake. So while ranchers get squeezed and families pay through the roof, a handful of giants have been sitting very pretty, making record profits. Newsmax legal analyst Jay Town, attorney at Judicial Watch, author of the fantastic book Defiant, Christina Bobb. Christina, there's very few times that I want the government to get involved in any type of business. Do you think this reaches the bar?
Well, I certainly hope so. Todd Blanche didn't give us a ton of information exactly about what they did, and we know that there's a settlement coming forth. He says we'll give more information later on in the week, so I'm curious to see more details about what he's doing. But the idea of increasing competition among meat packers, and he goes into seed distributors and other areas in agriculture. I think creating more opportunity for farmers and ranchers to actually be competitive in the market is a really good thing. So I'm eager to see what he announces later in the week.
Yeah, I mean, like I consume 3 pounds of beef a day, so I'm anxious to see some sort of relief at that price.
Yeah.
All right, Jay, we mentioned this earlier at the top of the show, but South Carolina, Nancy Mace dropping the dime on all the members of Congress that have been using our tax dollars to pay for their sexual harassment claims. And then here are some of them. 2007, 2009, Caroline McCarthy, obviously resulting. I mean, some of these are like 8,000, but then you've got 85,000, 20,000 from, by the way, 3 from the same dude, okay? Then you've got Blake. A lot of these people are out, and it's almost like you can't touch them anymore. But then everything before 2004 was conveniently destroyed.
Yeah, and good for Nancy Mace. I mean, these are our tax dollars, and we have no idea where they're going for since the inception of this fund. Eric Massa, who's no longer in Congress, well over 100,000. He was busy in 2010, it appears. Yeah. Conyers as well. So I hope she keeps this up. This is not something that I want my tax dollars or yours. I want you to be able to buy steak, Carl.
Yes.
And save some money because this is we need the transparency of this activity too. This is not what members of Congress should be doing, nor should we be paying for their settlements.
Yeah, and Christina, the other thing too is we'll probably never find out from before 2004, but there are things like the Senate briefing room, that guy in that video. Like, who was the other guy in that video? Do you think we're ever going to get any of these answers?
I sure hope so. I mean, this smacks of, this is so offensive to the American people. These are the same people who chided and derided Donald Trump over the Epstein files, who created the Epstein Transparency Act and said, show it all, show it all. Oh, but wait, don't show my dirty closet. Don't show the skeletons in my closet. And the fact, at least what Nancy Mace said, she said there's 9 people. And so there's 435 members in the House protecting 9 of them. Why? And they might not even... Right, they're not even there, exactly. So we don't hate our government enough. That's just the conclusion.
I hope we can recoup some of that money. I don't know, pull it out of their pensions or something like that. All right, Eric Holder, Jay, thinks that Democrats haven't wielded enough aggressive power. They need to start. Listen to this.
Progressives and Democrats have a reluctance, an uncomfortability with the acquisition and the use of power. And Republicans don't have those problems. Conservatives don't have those problems. And so the next time we have that power, we need to use it, not for the special interests, as Republicans have done, but in service to the American people.
Jay, if there's anything that proves him wrong, it's the fact that Democrats made Donald Trump a 34-time felon for $130,000 that came out of his own pocket. Yet Ilhan Omar has $30 million that apparently exists and then doesn't exist, and she walks free.
Not to mention the intelligence community assessment that Barack Obama and the rest of the Democrats, Hillary Clinton, put in place to sabotage Donald Trump. Not to mention that they set up systems with NGOs around the country so that tax dollars could actually go in the form of grants or other stipends to these different types of daycare or whatever. And then that money would then find its way back into the coffers of the Democratic politicians. So Eric Holder is the worst attorney general. He and Merrick Garland were really neck and neck. But Holder was there for 8 years. He was the worst we've ever had in this country. Second, not even second to anybody. Garland was close. But, they're uncomfortable with power since when?
But Christina, correct me if I'm wrong. Briefly, 30 seconds. Wasn't Eric Holder the guy who trafficked guns to the Mexican drug cartel, lied about it, and then didn't show up to Congress to testify and was held in contempt?
Yes, the things that happened under the Holder Department of Justice, the Jack Smith investigations into the Tea Party conservatives, a lot of this came from Eric Holder, and they really started sinking their teeth into lawfare under his leadership. So. I would love to see his viewpoint and figure out what the heck he's talking about, because I don't see it.
Yeah. Wow.
I told you he's the worst.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever he's smoking, it's got to be the good stuff. Jay, Christina, pleasure as always.
Thanks.
All right, coming up, Seattle is finding out real quick that you get what you vote for. Mayor Katie Wilson can't or won't answer any questions. Maybe that's a sign she shouldn't be running an entire city from her parents' basement. Culture Clash next.
The press won't report the real story.
The American people are actually very smart.
Ridiculous statements.
These guys are just plain weird.
Actual scandals.
Even the immunity decision. That decision was so misreported.
That's my job, and I aim to do it every night.
Kevin Sorbo here, and I have an important message to share. The government needs more money. Your money. If you owe the IRS back taxes, they can garnish your wages and levy your bank accounts. They can even seize your retirement or take your home. Don't let the IRS target you. Call the professionals at Tax Network USA. Their tax lawyers and enrolled agents are experts in powerful programs that may even help you eliminate your tax debt.
Call for a free consultation or visit tnusa.com.
Hi, I'm Gary Player. I'm a professional golfer. I've won 165 pro tournaments, but what means more to me than all of this is my ability to give back and do good.
You're an incredible human being, but you joined the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. You see the work we're doing.
I mean, what you do is fantastic. Tunnel to Towers is working every day to support America's greatest heroes. Please donate $11 a month at t2t.org.
It's 2 a.m., your fever spiked and you're miserable. Here's your options.
Urgent care, closed. ER, slammed, and you'll spend hundreds of thousands in both. Telehealth, yeah, but the pharmacies are closed.
That's the reason why we keep emergency medical kits at home.
It has doctor-prescribed medication like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other antibiotics and antivirals. You can treat flu, pneumonia, strep, sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
Because if you're sick in at night, traveling or stranded, you don't want options.
You want what is inside this kit. No waiting, no pharmacy, and no copays.
Just schedule a quick telehealth call.
And that's how you feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
Every family should have this kit, and here's how to order yours.
Order online in minutes and use the promo code to save $45. Your doctor-prescribed kit ships fast to your door, packed with medications to treat over 30 conditions. So when something hits, you're ready. And a wellness company telehealth doctor is always there if you need guidance.
Aging isn't something that happens later. It's happening right now. We age because our cells age.
Fatty 15 helps to reverse aging on a cellular level.
And just one daily capsule has over 36 cellular benefits.
Basically acts like an armor for your cells. You should definitely try Fatty 15.
Like a relentless weed, moderate to severe Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms can keep coming back.
Break away to what's possible with Tremfya.
The only IL-23 blocker for Crohn's and UC to offer self-administration from the start.
Tremfya can help with symptom relief as early as 4 weeks, remission at 12 weeks, 1 year, and 2 years.
Some had visible repair of their intestinal lining. Serious allergic reactions, increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them, and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and TB. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or need a vaccine. Break away with Tremfya.
Backed by over 15 years of clinical research. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today.
Well, outside of all the crystal meth and heroin, Seattle is doomed economically after socialist mayor Katie Wilson has just destroyed for her, I would say, comments and not comments, but these were some dismissive comments regarding the millionaires leaving the city. But she's in hot water again for just not answering questions to a local reporter. Roll this.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, but let's keep it on topic, okay? She's about to answer the question, though. Okay. I mean, it looks worse when you jump in like that. I'm sorry, I specifically said to keep it on topic. Okay. But I also have to ask the questions that people want to have answered. Maybe we can set up a different time for that. But the mayor's a busy person. I understand. Maybe we can set up with Sage sometime.
We'll talk to Sage.
Well, Sage hasn't returned phone calls all week, so.
Well, I don't know why that guy's wearing a reflective vest, but that's not even a dodge. If you can't answer the basic question, staff runs in. That woman is my age, still living with her parents. Newsmax contributor Chrissy Clark and host of John Bachman Now, John Bachman himself, loving the vest, John. Katie Porter and I are the same age. We have different values, I believe.
Yes. Katie Porter is...
not Katie Porter.
Yes.
This woman, Katie Wilson.
Just as bad.
Yeah, just as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we got to give, number one, slow golf clap to the reporter who asked those questions, because I would have lost my cool. Because you have this little minion, and as you mentioned, Carl, in the reflective vest for some reason.
I would have stomped him.
Jumping in. Yeah. He did the same thing in the question you talked about before earlier this week. Katie Wilson gave an interview about Starbucks leaving.
Right.
For Texas, I think. And she was like, oh, no big deal. So you have Boeing leaving Seattle. You have
which is its whole economy.
Yes, and then you also have Starbucks now. Howard Schultz leaving Seattle. Next is Microsoft, I guess. I mean, that's the whole entire city. That's what it was built on. That's why, other than grunge music, too. And she's just watching it all walk away.
It's so funny. Chrissy, but this is everywhere. Democrats just like go to the store of weird, the dollar store for weird, and they just pick out their candidates. The Michigan Senate candidate, Mallory McMorrow, has just dragged the Midwest through the mud. And her comments on rural America are terrible. Just, we should all learn from coastal elites. Roll this.
I think we all need to understand each other better. Trump has succeeded in weaponizing us against each other, convincing us that we are each other's enemies. I've lived all over the country. I've met a lot of different people, and I stand by that.
Yeah, so if you come from an area that has a literal poop map, Christy, I don't want any advice from you.
Notice how she was talking about a tweet, or the reporter asked her about a tweet that she made saying that rural Americans, they're just less than these liberal elites. And simultaneously, she then distracts us from answering the question about her tweets by saying it's Donald Trump tearing people apart. Girl, it was your tweet. Answer for your tweet.
Yeah, actually, that's a strong point right there. But this gets worse. In the same interview, she compares this Trump administration to Nazi Germany. Watch this.
Do you personally see parallels between Nazi Germany and what's happening under the Trump administration?
Yeah, I do.
Donald Trump's not a Nazi.
No, we've established that.
Graham Plattner, maybe.
There is, they will completely forget about the Nazi tattoo and elevate him and her. There's something about Mallory McMorrow that really bothers me. I mean,
was it the fact that she didn't live where she voted?
Well, she's being
that.
She's being elevated to this position. We saw her get that primetime speaking role at the DNC, and she's being groomed for this position. I don't know who convinced her to move from California to Michigan because they have an available Senate seat. But that's carpetbagging 101. This is they needed a new Catholic liberal, progressive too. Nancy Pelosi's on her way out. Joe Biden's obviously not effective anymore. So they need someone else to lecture us Catholics who actually believe in the sanctity of life and all that stuff. And that's what Mallory McMorrow's job now is to be that ultra-progressive Catholic.
Right, but let's go to the Michigan Senate race, because there's this guy, Abdul El Sayed, has become the Democrat frontrunner, and compared to his opponents, Mallory McMorrow and Haley Stevens, he performs actually the worst against Mike Rogers, which is crazy to me. The fact, Chrissy, that there could be a Republican in that state.
Yeah, it would be amazing. I mean, it's kind of what I see. My husband's from Michigan. I went to Michigan State. I've been in Michigan a lot. Let me just say, the people of Michigan want their state to prosper. And unfortunately, it's not going to prosper outside of, Abdul El Sayed. He's not going to do anything other than prosper a small, tiny pocket of Dearborn. And we saw the policies that he wants to enact in that area, and it's not been successful. In fact, it's made it more divisive than we've ever seen it before. So I don't think that this is going to be a difficult job for the Republicans there, so long as Syed ends up as the nominee.
Yeah, 100%. Well, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, John, turned transportation secretary that couldn't fix a pothole in his town or in the country, had an epiphany on how we should elect our president. Watch this.
One thing that would make a huge difference is if we selected our president by letting the person who got the most votes actually take the office instead of the National Electoral College.
And if that was the case, John, Donald Trump would still be president.
Still be president, but this is Pete Buttigieg for you, who is a radical.
Chest feeding.
Chest feeding, too. He's a radical in sheep's clothing. It's not going to happen, by the way. The Pete Buttigieg thing, for everyone who wants him to be president, it's not going to happen, so just forget about that. You don't have to keep making these radical proclamations, Pete Buttigieg. The reason why we have the Electoral College is to protect the votes of the minority in this country. Correct. So you don't have two lions voting with a lamb on what's for dinner, and that is why we have that. They want to get rid of that. They want to pack the Supreme Court, and they want to make it so that Republicans don't have a voice.
Just the funniest part about Pete Buttigieg is he has polling at literal zero with black people.
Yes,
so funny.
Mayo,
John, Chrissy, pleasure as always. All right, coming up. Rudy Giuliani, unfortunately, is in the hospital, and all Mamdani can do is offer a word salad about, I don't know what, but Kamala would be proud of him. Next.
At Omaha Steaks, we do burgers differently. We take a premium aged steak like this and turn it into a pure ground burger like this. So this is actually a ribeye. This is a New York strip, top sirloin, beef brisket, and this is a filet mignon. For a limited time, our Burger Perfection collection comes with 20 big juicy burgers for just $99.99. Plus, you'll get 8 of our new Wagyu smash burgers free with your order at omahasteaks.com/TV. This is Burger Perfection guaranteed.
In a recent TV commercial, I mentioned that my mother had switched to Pure Talk. Now people want me to prove it. So, here's Mom.
Hi, Mike.
Please tell America why you switched.
Because you said I should.
For those of you who aren't my mother, Pure Talk is offering unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data for just $34.99 a month. That's half the cost of the big guys with no contracts and no commitments.
You've always had commitment issues, haven't you, Mike?
Pure Talk, where the savings are as real as the mothers.
Are you sitting at home living in pain? Maybe it's in your hands, maybe your back or your hips. The good news is you don't need to live in pain. Why? Because there is Omega XL, a one-of-a-kind, natural, powerful joint relief supplement created from the green-lipped mussels of New Zealand. Drug-free, non-habit forming. It's small, easy to swallow, and it's backed by more than 40 years of clinical research. If you're experiencing daily aches and pains due to aging and overuse, try Omega XL. Just ask anybody who uses it. The results are undeniable.
I had a lot of joint pain, and that slowed me down.
I had considerable pain in my back.
Really felt the pain. I mean, in my ankles and in my heels.
I'm telling you about something that's gonna change your life. It has revived me.
This works.
I'm not a prisoner anymore to my pain.
As I was getting older, my joints started to feel that wear and tear. But then I tried Omega XL, and it changed my life. Today I'm here at my ranch exercising some of my polo ponies. So as you get older, it gets tougher. I was starting to suffer some of that business, and then I ran into somebody who said, look, you should try Omega XL. And look what it's done. I feel better than I felt in the last 30 years. And Omega XL gave me the ability to get back in the saddle. It works great. If you're in pain, I want you to know that there is real hope out there. I'm living proof. See the difference it can make in your life, just like it did in mine.
Call now or order online to receive our special TV offer. Buy 1 bottle of Omega XL and get a second free. Plus, we'll also include a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. 2 free bottles for the price of 1 bottle of Omega XL. A total value of $115. You pay only $49.95 and it ships free. Plus, you get a money-back guarantee. Buy 1, get 2 free. Call or go online right now.
Well, folks, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani remains hospitalized tonight in critical but stable condition. Now, America's mayor was admitted over the weekend due to a bout with pneumonia, but President Trump hailing Giuliani as a warrior and the best mayor New York City has ever had, posting on Truth Social, what a tragedy that he was treated so badly by the radical left lunatics, Democrats, all, and he was right about everything, which... yeah, pretty much was. Giuliani's pneumonia complicated, obviously, by his 9/11-related respiratory illness that he suffers from. But the current mayor, Zoran Mamdani, was asked if he had anything to say about Rudy Giuliani's helping the city through 9/11.
I think former Mayor Giuliani is someone that we as New Yorkers know well, and he's been a fixture in our city's politics and public life for so many years. And I know that many New Yorkers are concerned by the reports that he's in critical condition. And so we do keep him and his family in our prayers at this time.
He just couldn't. It looks like he went to Kamala's word salad school for speaking good. John Chell, the former NYPD chief of department. Sir, look, Rudy Giuliani is undoubtedly the best thing that ever happened to the city after Mayor Dinkins. You were on the force during that transition. I mean, what is it to you to see a mayor standing up there not, ecstatically wishing him good wishes?
That's just word salad. Something his communications director said, you got to say this, and he just says it. Sometimes you got to put the teleprompter down. Sometimes you got to put the pad away and just speak from the heart. Mayor to ex-mayor. Do the right thing. So no surprise there.
Yeah. So here's another thing, too. We get back to NYPD stuff. I mean, obviously, him and Bernie Kerik took the reins after 9/11. There they are on screen. I mean, it was an unbelievable feat for them to do what they did in securing the state, securing the whole city, the manning, turning crime around, stuff like that. But the New York police department that you are recently retired from, they're being crushed now with staffing shortages, under 35,000 officers for 5 straight years. PBA President Pat Henry says that the department's losing between 250 and 300 officers every month. Is that sustainable?
It's not sustainable. And years ago, we were up 40,000, and we didn't have this many demands on them as they have now. So they're woefully understaffed, overworked, not respected, and the Democratic Socialist America, especially ones on our city council, should be ashamed of themselves. They hate this city, they hate what America stands for, and they certainly don't like the New York City Police Department or any law enforcement whatsoever.
But this is, nationwide. Democrat states are cutting budgets for police. But the first thing, they're always saying defund the police and do that and do this. The first thing they do, and you correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but when you cut funding, you cut training.
When you cut funding, it's a cascading effect. Everything gets affected. And when everything gets affected, it doesn't run as efficiently as it can. You know who suffers? The cop suffers and the public suffers. Let me tell you something. If I ever took over this city, which one day I might, I will make them the highest paid police department in the world. I will set this thing on a course that'll be an example for everyone. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, well, you got my vote for sure. And because I'm not allowed to officially endorse you and you're not officially running. So the issue here, though, you have all these people all over the place saying, we're going to sue cops, we're going to take away their immunity, we're going to do all these things. One of the things that Rudy Giuliani did, he stood behind his cops unequivocally. But you have cops now that are like, hey, look, I'd go bust that shoplifter, but it's just not worth it for me because I could lose my job over, a claim about racism or something.
Defund the police, qualified immunity where they're not covered civilly. Why would you be proactive? Just be reactive. Because when the cops feel, not locker room call, you've been out locker room before, when that locker room feels like they're not being backed, they will not go, listen, they took an oath, they'll do their job, and they'll respond when they have to. But to be proactive when you're not appreciated, why would you? When Rudy was around, he was boots on the ground. You know this term, he led from the back, not the rear.
Yeah, I mean, that is the fundamental problem, and I'm really worried about the future for this city that I work in every single day. So it's getting worse and worse. John Chell, Chief of Patrol, we appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl.
All right. Well, before we go, don't you just love when these crazy libs pose and pretend to be, normal people with jobs with calluses on their hands? Well, I can't stand it when they try. We got another staged photo op coming for you next.
Hi, I'm Sally with sellmypolicy.com, the fast concierge service here to help you sell your life insurance policy for cash now. Our experienced team makes it fast and easy for you to get your offer. Use the money however you want. Cover healthcare costs, pay off debt, or take the trip of a lifetime. Use the funds for supplemental retirement income, investments, or home improvements, or give money to loved ones now rather than later. John sold his policy for $590,000 in cash, which he used to pay for health care. And Cheryl sold her policy for $90,000 in cash and used it to supplement her retirement income. If you are over 65 with a life insurance policy of $100,000 of coverage up to $50 million of coverage, then you may qualify. With Sell My Policy, some people choose to sell all or just part of their policy so they can access cash now while also keeping coverage in place for their loved ones.
It's easy to find out what your policy could be worth today. Call 800-961-7355. That's 800-961-7355. Or visit sellmypolicy.com.
Why lapse or surrender your policy? Sell it and you can stop making premium payments. You may receive substantially more cash than what your insurance carrier will offer. Plus, you'll get paid fast. Arthur sold his policy for $84,000 in cash, which he used to help reduce his debt. SellMyPolicy.com has a large network of funders. That means more money in your pocket. If you or a loved one has a policy, call now. Trusted by seniors, there's no obligation to sell. Find out what your policy is worth today.
Talk with a policy expert now to see how much cash you could receive. Call 800-961-7355. That's 800-961-7355. or visit sellmypolicy.com. sellmypolicy.com.
What if you're sick at home or traveling and can't get medical help or prescriptions? Doctors say a medical emergency kit is the answer. Joining me is Dr. Drew.
Thank you. And yes, these kits put you in charge of your health. They come with physician-prescribed medication to treat multiple common and some serious issues as well.
What are some examples?
Sure. Generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, other essential antibiotics and antivirals that treat flu, pneumonia, strep, ear infections, sinus infections, urinary tract infections, and more.
So it is like urgent care and a pharmacy at home?
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications.
How do you know what medicines to take?
You just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Sound advice. Order online in minutes at the website below and save $45. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
And now here's Chris Cunahan with the Leaf Filter Gutter Report and what changing weather conditions can mean for your home. Chris?
Our patented leaf filter technology keeps your gutters clog-free year-round. No matter where you live, no matter the climate. Locally trained professionals will clean, repair, and install the Leaf Filter Gutter Protection System. Leaf Filter guarantees clog-free gutters for the life of your home. Schedule your free inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
Need blood pressure support? Total Beets contain a patented key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. That's why Total Beets is the #1 best-selling beets brand in America. Take control of your health with Total Beets. Search Amazon now for Total Beets.
This is so funny all the time. Democrats always pretend to be like real, like when they all wear their flannel shirt to the Iowa caucus and things like that. The obviously staged photo of Gavin Newsom. Okay. This is so funny. Announcing a $13.2 million California Opportunity Youth Apprentice Grant System. All right, pretending to use a skill saw. Okay, let's just say this is the most awkward, unmanly thing I've ever seen. You should see the memes. Check out the guy behind him, okay? Pristine reflective gear. Notice there's no scrap wood on the ground, meaning it's the first cut of the day. Now, obviously, given the shadows, the shadows are pretty short, so it's probably noon, sun's right above you, and that means the construction workers stood around all day waiting for this guy. Also, those cheesy metal fold-out, like those things, that would last about a day and a half on a real construction site. No job sites use these things anywhere. And the 2x4, by the way, is clamped down. I've been on a lot of construction sites. I've never seen a 2x4 clamp down to a set of sawhorses. Very little sawdust down here too. This is I've worked in construction for many years. This is actually visually offensive to me. And the fact that he's sitting there with the hair gel on and the brand new, first off, Rob, I've never owned a pair of safety glasses that are that clear.
That clear, yeah.
That clear. They're always scratched up.
Those are brand new.
Yeah, everything's brand new. Yeah, whatever. Even those jeans.
He's probably wearing a thong under those jeans too.
Hey, you said it, not me.
Did I?
That means I can't get in trouble for it. I'm out of here. I got 9 seconds left in the show.
I'll take it. I'll take it away.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.